Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can still hear you, mate.
Right, 3, 2, 1. Welcome to the Sports Sesh podcast. I'm your host, Mason Shatwell, and my co-host is James Evans. And this week we've not actually got a guest on. We're just gonna chat between ourselves, and hopefully we don't bore you away. How are you doing, James?
Yeah, not too bad, mate. Obviously, for those who don't know, I'm still stuck in self-isolation for a couple more days, but we're getting there. I mean, it's probably been one of the longest 2 weeks of my life. It's starting to drag on a bit, but like you said, we don't have a guest, so you're going to have to put up with us for an hour, but we've got a lot of things to talk about, so hopefully it should be a good show, mate. How about yourself? You doing well?
Yeah, I'm doing well. Just doing what I'm doing. First thing I wanted to talk about, last week of the transfer window, do you think your team Chelsea needs to make any more signings after what we've seen the past couple of weeks?
Yeah, 100. I don't know. It's going to be an interesting one because it was a bit of a surprise to see. Well, a bit of a surprise, but not that big of a surprise to see Ross Barkley go. I think it's quite clear he wants game time in preparation for next year's Euros. I thought Loftus-Cheek would go out as well. Maybe he still might go out as well. I think he's in desperate need of a loan move away for the club this season, and then potentially, I think for the next week or so, we're going to see more departures than incomings. I think we've done the majority of our business. We're going to see the likes of Drinkwater and Moses, Bakayoko, all of them lot leave. But if we do get rid of Loftus-Cheek, then I do think we really need to go in for Declan Rice and literally just splash out on Declan, because in the game we saw yesterday and like what we've seen in the past couple of weeks or so, we've struggled for that out-and-out CDM who can just sit in front of the back line and do the job. And obviously, Kante can kind of, obviously that's primarily his job to do so, but you see him bench forward at times. We just need that individual just to sit back and dig deep and help the defence out. And if we do get rid of Loftus-Cheek, then I really think we should, be dipping in our pockets once again to splash out for Declan Rice.
Well, I'm quite disappointed with my club's transfer window so far. As good as a player Donny van der Beek is, he's not going to help the team challenge for a title on his own. I think we need a centre back, a left back, and a winger. Obviously, we've been going in for Sancho for it feels like months and months now. And I think yesterday or this morning we had a bid rejected off him, which is a bit of a not something that we want, but I don't see us getting Sancho. But news emerged before, and I've seen we've gone in, are looking for a loan move for Dembele from Barcelona. And I think, and again, as great as a player Dembele is, I've got a feeling that's a bit of a panic buy, if I'm being totally honest.
No, I totally agree. I don't know if you saw, I took to Twitter to announce or just share my expressions and thoughts on the potential sign. I totally agree with you, mate. It's a bit of a panic buy because Dortmund have said no to 90 million. They're going to flat out refuse any offer until you reach that 120 million target, which I don't see paying this year. I think you'll get them next year. And I totally agree. I think you've left it this late. You've got 1 week left, and you thought, Christ, is there anyone out there where you're just going to go in for the market and sign Dembele, or trying to anyway, on loan in preparation for next season when you sign Dembele? And I'm not sure on the bloke. I mean, he went to Barcelona too soon. He went from, I think it was Rennes to Dortmund, and he was absolutely unbelievable. He's had his injury problems at Barcelona. He's so injury prone, and he's very inconsistent at times. So he's got a lot to offer. I think age is on his side. He's still only 23. But when you stick him in United's front line, I don't get what more he has to offer for that team. Does he even start? I don't think so. Does he start ahead of Greenwood, Martial, Rashford? No. I genuinely believe that. On his day, fully fit and on form, maybe, but I don't think you'll get the best Ousmane Dembele. And I totally agree with you. I think Donny van der Beek's just not going to cut it this summer, albeit he is a very good signing. I still think you need one or two before the window closes. You need a partner for Maguire, and I do think you need another fullback and a better winger, personally.
How well? We'll go on to a few games that have been played recently. What went wrong for Chelsea last night, would you say, against Spurs?
It was predominantly a game of two halves. I mean, in the first half, I would say we battered them because we only got the one goal before half time, but we looked in total control. And I don't know what Mourinho said in the dressing room at half time to his Tottenham players, but they certainly were rattled and ready to go for the second half, and they completely wiped the floor with us. And they did deserve it in the end. I just think Chelsea weren't. There was something missing in that game. I think it's the same old Chelsea. We're always wondering what could have been, because we had chances to kill the game off, and we should have killed the game off way before Tottenham got their equaliser through Eric Lamela. We should have scored through Tammy. Well, not score, but like Callum Hudson-Odoi and Mason Mount went through 1-on-1, or had the chance to pass to Timo Werner and Tammy Abraham to give them a tap in, pretty much. So if they would have successfully passed that and they scored, then obviously we'd be talking about how we're into the next round. But unfortunately, we were left to rue our missed chances. And unfortunately, again, I wasn't confident on the penalty shootout. And unfortunately for Mason Mount, yeah, he obviously missed the decisive spot kick, which it happens. He's only a young lad, and I've seen loads of people give him stick, which is absolutely shambolic. I mean, we all miss penalties. Christ, I mean, if you got 100%, tell me a player who's got 100% penalty record. It's unheard of right now in this modern era. So you got to cut him some slack, miss. He's only young, and personally, I don't think he should have been on the pitch to take a penalty. I think he should have got taken off, because it wasn't his finest hour in a Chelsea shirt in that game. But what he does for that team is, unquestionably, immense. I mean, what that guy offers in terms of his work rate, second to none. I don't think the Chelsea fans should be getting on his back. They should be encouraging him. But again, we were left to rue our missed chances last night. Unfortunately, Tottenham just, won it on penalties. What more can you say?
It is what it is. But how would you assess Chelsea's start to the Premier League season?
I mean, I don't know. It's a tough one. I think this week is a bit of a must-win. Coming up against Brighton, I think you look at the result we got against them. We didn't play well. The result was probably better than it looked in a way, because they've done very well. And I think Brighton were very unlucky against you. And I don't know. I think Liverpool, I wouldn't have been disappointed that we lost to the champions, but I think we've matched them tactically speaking anyway, until we got the red card from Christensen, because defensively we were pretty sound up until the red card, and we could have gone out in the second half all guns blazing, trying to compete, maybe get the point, or maybe even push on for the 3 points. And then the West Brom game was just fair play. We came back from 3-0 down, but we shouldn't have been 3-0 down in the first place. That was inexcusable, and it's just minor errors. I think Marcus Alonso is not going to start again for a while anyway, unless Chilwell's really injured. I don't think Thiago Silva needs a lot more time. I don't think he should have started against West Brom and should have been the captain. It's been a bit of a mixed start. I think we've been very disappointed at times. It's a bit of a weird one. But I think once we got our best starting 11, we actually sort out the goalkeeper situation and we need to start getting the results and the performances, and maybe we can, challenge and start competing again. I think the getting knocked out yesterday it's disappointing, but it's a bit of a blessing for us, really, because that's a couple more fixtures, crossed off the calendar. Like, we don't have to compete any further, so it gives us a lot more time to think about where we go from here. But I don't know, with regards to the start of the season, 4 points out of 9, we should have been at least expecting 7, but it's not been the best of starts, to be honest with you.
Well, I'll go on about United's start. Although I was happy with the end result on Saturday, I think it was awful. Like, the way we was defending in the latter half of the second half, it just proves that we need another centre back to partner with Maguire. And the goal we conceded right at the end, well, that we thought was going to be right at the end, we shouldn't have conceded that, because there was loads of chances for him to score in them positions, and they didn't take them, because I think the final number was about 5 times they hit either the crossbar or the post, and obviously we could have been 6-7-0 down. But that penalty, although I'm not going to complain about it, it's just I don't see that as a win for United, really, because in a way it was, but in terms of a performance, no, I'm not impressed with us so far. Especially the first game against, I think it's Palace. It's just abysmal, and I don't see us at this rate. I don't see us challenging for top 4, if I'm being honest.
I mean, at this rate, it'd be difficult for you to get top 4, because you just haven't made the signings, and there's something missing with United right now. And I think there's something going on behind the scenes with regards to the board and the manager and the sort of the team, and there's just something not gelling right now. And I think Ollie, if you don't get those signings, I think there's going to be some sort of chaos in the back room. And with regards to sort of season, I think Palace, obviously, that was immensely disappointing. You were atrocious. Same with Brighton. I don't think you were the best. You were very lucky to get the 3 points. And, Brighton have started off very well, albeit they've only got 3 points from 9. They battered Newcastle. They gave us a good game. They should have got the equaliser against you. They should have got the point against you. Or they should have even won because, on any other day, they might have scored those chances, but they were just unfortunate to hit the crossbar so many times. So I think United, you can be very happy that you got your first 3 points of the season, but in the manner in which you did it, there's still some cause for concern right now if you're a United fan.
Well, this episode's going to be going out, I think, tomorrow, the day after tonight's game for United. I'm going to give a prediction. I'm probably going to look a bit stupid with it, but I'm going to say 2-0 United for tonight against Brighton in the Carabao. But I say that because I think Ollie's going to field a stronger team just because he's going to want to get the wins in it. I think the Carabao or the FA Cup a bit later on in the season is going to be what we're going to be challenging for, because Champions League, we're not going to be able to compete with the likes of Bayern, Madrid, Barcelona, even the likes of Man City and Liverpool. We're not. It's just maybe the Carabao if we're lucky, and the FA Cup depending on draws. But I know we beat Brighton on Saturday, but it just all depends what team both teams field. So I'm going to go for 2-0 United.
Yeah, obviously you play tonight, and the Champions League draws next week, so it'll be interesting to see who you get there. But I think United will win tonight. I don't think it'll be convincing again, but as long as you go through to the quarterfinals, I think it is after, then that's all that matters, I guess.
Well, I'm going to go football a bit. I seen through the week McGregor's made another announcement. Well, he's made a couple.
Yeah, a couple.
He wanted to fight Diego Sanchez, which, as much as a legend Sanchez is, what's the point of him fighting McGregor? Because although I think it's a similar fight to Cerrone, just because I didn't see much threat on Cerrone's part towards McGregor. Like, McGregor's now at the age where he should be in the prime of his career, and both Cerrone and Sanchez are they're at their end of careers. Like, after we seen from Saturday performance, Diego Sanchez, we'll more than likely get onto that, but it just proves that he shouldn't be fighting McGregor. And then another announcement he's made, potentially, he wants to do a charity MMA exhibition bout with Dustin Poirier I think he said he'll donate $500,000 towards Dustin's charity, which you can't give him any stick for, but that's just if the UFC let them do that, because obviously they're
just fighting the bloody UFC. If you're desperate to fight Dustin Poirier, give your fight winnings or your fight bonuses, or half of it, to the Good Fight Foundation. I've got nothing but respect that he wants to do a charity MMA bout, but it's kind of an FU Dana White situation, because you've seen Conor McGregor leak the DMs on Instagram. You've also seen Dustin Poirier have a bit of a spat with Dana White in terms of negotiations with the supposed co-main event at UFC 254 against Tony Ferguson, which will not happen now.
Yeah.
So they're both kind of going behind his back and saying, F you, this is how we're going to do it. We're probably going to make more money in this charity bout between us two than we probably would have in the UFC. So it's not. There's no way it's going to happen. There's no way it's going to happen. I like the idea though. I'd love to see Conor McGregor fight Dustin Poirier again, but just doing the bloody UFC, man. There's no need for a charity event. And with regards to Diego Sanchez, no. I mean, just no. We know that's not going to happen. And I saw Diego's performance on Saturday. It looked like he had no business being in there whatsoever. He was absolutely abysmal. He came in overweight. He did not look match fit, to say the least. And I don't know what his cornerman is doing. That weird guru guy who just gives Diego all these inspiring quotes and these weird poses, and just there that's when you should hang it up, because they both have no business being in that cage whatsoever. And the more times he fights, the more it's going to damage his legacy, because you've got to respect Diego for what he's done. He's season 1 Ultimate Fighter winner, and the more time, every time he steps into the octagon, gets battered, his just legs is just going way downhill. And I think he needs to stop. There's no chance of a fight between him and McGregor. No one in God's earth would want to see that.
And now the most, well, not bizarre because he spoke about it before, but the one that I really don't want to see, Conor McGregor's apparently going to be fighting next year in the Middle East against Manny Pacquiao.
I heard it was December.
Either way, it's been.
Either way.
Yeah, it's just Manny Pacquiao, really. Even boxing. Like, I don't see there's much point of, apart from money. Well, to be fair, it doesn't need any more money.
No.
But I think the only person it's really going to benefit is probably Manny Pacquiao in terms of, well, not even that much, because I've seen somewhere that he's going to be donating around 90 to 95% of his purse of that fight if it does go ahead to the Philippines COVID relief.
I don't know. It's again one of them whereby McGregor has openly stated, God knows how many times after the Mayweather battle, that he wants to fight at boxing again, once or twice before his end of his career. But again, it will do numbers certainly for pay-per-view. But it'll be a shame that we don't get fans in the stadium. But there's no way I really would not want to see that fight with Manny Pacquiao. I mean, it's just speculation. It's just rumors at this point. I don't think it will come to fruition. It doesn't need to. It doesn't need to fight in the boxing ring again. I know it gives you more money, but stick to stay in your lane. Stay in the MMA, and it's for a good cause, and it's for charity, and a lot of that fair play, blah blah blah. But in terms of like head to heads, even now I think Pacquiao batters him.
Yeah, in terms of,
there's just no need for it. There's just no need for it whatsoever.
I've been talking with the guys at my gym about it, and the only way McGregor wins is if he catches him early, because obviously it's the way Manny Pacquiao fights. He fights mainly towards a knockout, and his head movement, like towards like when he fought Mayweather, Conor, Mayweather is more on the defensive side, and if you watch Manny Pacquiao, he's more on the offensive side. So McGregor's more likely to knock Pacquiao out when Pacquiao's coming forward, rather than winning in a decision. But I see a Manny Pacquiao decision if that was ever to come to place. But I don't want it to, and I don't see it happening.
It's no way happening. I think the next time McGregor fights, he'll be in the octagon. Simple. Yeah, you've heard it here first.
That's if McGregor does fight. Like, I know we all know he probably will fight again, but that's if he's offered the right fight. Because if he's offered like straight up Tony Ferguson or someone like that, I don't see him accepting that straight away. I think he wants one or two more fights before he fights someone of that caliber.
No, McGregor, he's just going to go straight into the deep end. I don't see him fighting these mediocre old guys. I think he goes straight into the deep end. I think if Khabib vacates in 21, and then that leaves the door. So say if, I don't know, it depends. Like, if Dana White gives Conor McGregor a call and said, we're going to do Conor McGregor versus Justin Gaethje for the vacant or the lightweight title, Conor McGregor will, happily accept it. But if, Gaethje defends his title and then against, just say hypothetically, Gaethje defends his title against Dustin Poirier, Dana White gives Conor McGregor a phone call to say, you'll be competing in a number one contender spot against Tony Ferguson. The winner of that fight will face the winner of Gaethje Poirier. He will decline that fight. I think he'll want to go straight into the deep end and try and go for the belt, because I don't think he'll see the potential number one contender fight with Ferguson as a bit of a disrespect in a way, because although, hypothetically speaking, he should work his way back up the rankings, but just because of his sheer star and his sheer stature outside the octagon, just his presence that he brings, and you could literally throw him into a title fight straight away, and it'll do a lot more bigger numbers than say Gaethje Poirier, even though McGregor hasn't fought in God knows how long. In terms, he hasn't fought a top contender in God knows how long. I know he's fought Dom Cerrone, but does that really count in a way? Because he's not gained anything from it because he hasn't fought since.
This fight that did something for him was probably Eddie Alvarez.
Yeah, 100%. I think obviously he fought Khabib Nurmagomedov, but I think he's just going to want to go into these big pay-per-view fights. He's not going to want to fight these like contender spots against the likes of Ferguson, Poirier, Chandler, now Dan Hooker. He's just going to want to fight the big. Whoever's got that belt, he's going to give Dana what I call and say, I want to fight him. I don't care if I don't deserve it, or if I haven't deserved it, or I haven't just been as active as I should be. You got to give me that fight. I don't think McGregor will sort of climb up the rankings now. I just think he'll go for the bigger fights.
I'd love to see Conor against Ferguson, but unless Ferguson somehow has the title, I don't see that being likely in the at all. But moving on from that subject in the UFC, we just had UFC 253 Adesanya versus Costa. What did you make of the event as a whole?
I mean, there were some very good fights on there. There were certainly ones to watch on. I particularly enjoyed the fight between Dawodu and Tuhugov. I mean, I was very impressed. I don't know, there was some sort of split controversy as to who the fight should have gone to, but I really enjoyed that fight. Dawodu's legit, mate. I mean, he's beaten a guy in Tuhugov who has obviously trained with Khabib in Dagestan, and he's very hard to beat. And, you know, that's kind of put Dawodu's name on the map. I think he deserves to fight a top 10 ranked contender now. He's deserved it, and hopefully, you know, he can get those bigger fights soon, because he's in a very aggressive fight. I like watching Hakeem every time he fights, so it'll be interesting to see who gets stats. I think he will get a top 10 ranked guy next. As for the rest, the title fights, Dominic Reyes, Jan Blachowicz. I mean, I thought Dominic Reyes would literally have dominated the full 5 rounds, but I mean, the Polish power is legit, isn't it? It's crazy to see Jan Blachowicz's performance. You saw with a couple of the kicks from Blachowicz, I don't know if you saw Reyes' ribs in the second round. My God, was that red? And he was getting light up, you know, prior to the knockout defeat. So it's a shame for Dominic Reyes, but I don't know. We have a new light heavyweight champion, but
what's next?
I don't know exactly what is next. I mean, there's been discussions of Adesanya coming up, and if John Jones doesn't come back to 205, I think he will go up to heavyweight. Maybe I don't know, but let's just say John Jones' next fight is not at 205. Jan Blachowicz will face the winner of Glover Teixeira and Thiago Santos. And on paper, does that fight do bits for pay-per-view? Probably not, but it's a good fight on paper nonetheless, though. But if John Jones is staying at heavyweight or going to heavyweight, and Adesanya stays at middleweight, then primarily that's the fight to make next. And as for the main event, I mean, that was just, well, one-sided as anything could be. I mean, I've been a big fan of Adesanya, like I've spoken to you off air. I've been a big fan of him for years now. I've been picking up his name, and it's nice to see some people give him the recognition that he deserves, because there are still some doubters out there, which is crazy. I mean, if you're not on the Adesanya hype train now, then my God, you need to get yourself a ticket, because that man is going to dominate for years to come, because he's essentially cleaned out the division, and he's only been in the middleweight UFC game for 2 years now, and it's crazy to think he's cleaning out the division right now. And the fight with Paulo Costa, I mean, I was very disappointed in his approach, because, you know, going into the fight, he was 13-0. He had that one-punch knockout power, and he had that power in those hands, which was absolutely ridiculous. But he looked gun-shy in that fight. I don't know what his coaches told him, but he just looked gun-shy and reluctant to throw that right hand. And eventually we just saw the counter-striker artist of Adesanya pick him apart and eventually getting the finish in the second round. And got nothing but respect for Adesanya. That guy's a true champion.
Well, before we get on to what's next for both guys that were in the main event, Dominic Reyes, obviously, it was a below par performance from him. I agree with yourself. Like, I predicted a Dominic Reyes domination 5-round decision win, but obviously that's not what we've seen. We've seen him get beat up and then eventually knocked out. Them ribs at the end. Oh, got to give it still carrying on with him, because I know there would have been quite a few fighters that wouldn't have still gone for it. But what do you see next for Dominic Reyes?
I don't know. It depends what the UFC want to do. They might give Dominic an immediate rematch with Blachowicz. I don't know. They could give him the winner of Thiago Santos versus Teixeira Blachowicz. As for Reyes, maybe even the loser of that fight, really.
I
And
don't.
that's sort of a number one contender fight as to who fights the winner of Blachowicz and then the winner of Thiago Santos Teixeira.
Well, I don't see him giving him an immediate rematch because that would have been 3 title fights in a row.
True. No, he's lost 2 in a row, so yeah, you're right.
But to be fair, losing 2 in a, the only reason I don't see him getting it is because it would have been 3 title fights in a row. If it was just 2 normal fights, could get the title shot because look at Romero. But
yeah,
I see it more likely. I see him more likely facing the loser of Glover Teixeira and Thiago Santos. But now on to Adesanya. I know he called out Jared Cannonier. Well, said he'll like to fight him if he gets through Whitaker. Does Jared get through Whitaker?
I mean, it depends what Robert Whitaker shows up. I mean, if we're seeing the Robert Whitaker, mentally drained and having those personal problems, then I think Cannonier knocks him out cold. But if we're seeing that determined, motivated Robert Whitaker again, who says he wants to win the title, and if that Robert Whitaker shows up, I see him, beating him Cannonier via decision, because you saw him in his last fight with Till, he looked very good, and it's good to see that we've got Robert Whitaker back, and if he's well determined to get that belt back, then nothing's going to stop him, really. I think he does get past Cannonier if he has that mindset, but Cannonier can literally catch him very early on. I mean that guy, like I said, he's a former heavyweight. It's crazy how he's got down to 185, and he'll have to use those tools in his arsenal to his advantage against Whitaker. And it depends, like I said, it depends what Whitaker shows up. Seeing the old Whitaker of old, determined, he takes his fight decision. If we're seeing like a shaky, dodgy Whitaker who's just has his exploitation, he is easily exploitable at times. Then we may see Cannonier knock him out, but I don't know. It's a tough one to call. Come fight week, I'll give a better prediction.
Well, we'll give slight predictions for UFC 254 later on, but while we're talking about what would have been next for Adesanya, who does Costa fight next? Does he have another fight with Romero?
Oh no, not with Romero. He has another fight before fighting for the belt again. Don't think it'll be Romero. Like maybe the loser of Whitaker Cannonier, or maybe the winner of Till versus Hermansson. I don't know. It depends what the UFC want to do. Personally, I'd like to see Costa face a loser of Whitaker Cannonier.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine that. Imagine if Robert Whitaker beats Cannonier. Imagine Cannonier versus Costa. That would be an explosive fight. But yeah, I think he fights the loser of that, unless he gets the immediate rematch, which I don't think will happen.
Well, like you mentioned, Till and Hermansson's name. If say I see them, if Hermansson is to overcome Till, which I don't know, I'll give a prediction once it's up, when it's that week.
It's not until December, isn't it? We can forget about that.
Yeah. But if Hermansson is to come up and win against Till, I think the UFC could offer the Costa fight to win. But if Till is to win, I don't see him offering the Costa fight to Till. Or I don't see him still wanting to fight Costa.
He'll probably want to go for the title shot. It's a weird one. I think Till needs 2 more wins before getting the title shot, though.
But say Till overcomes Hermansson, then who next? Would it be Would you see a rematch with Whitaker unless Whitaker's fighting for the title?
I don't see the rematch happening with Whitaker anytime soon. I think you look at the likes of Cannonier and Costa's name. I don't know. I think, like I said, Till needs 2 more wins to earn himself a title shot. He just needs some convincing wins, because obviously he had a decent display against Robert Whitaker. Not the best of displays against Calvin Gastelum, but still won, fair play. But I think he needs 2 big wins and to get his name on the map before he fights for the title shot, because I don't think if he gets a big win, like a really big win over Hermansson, I still don't think the UFC are going to give him that title shot. I think they'll want to give him one more fight and before fighting Adesanya if he's still the champion.
Well, there's the next pay-per-view. Well, we'll go on for the next pay-per-view on Fight Island, UFC 254. We'll give a slight predictions. We'll probably give more updated ones closer to the time and when the full.
Yeah.
I know the full card's been revealed, but as we know with the UFC, anything
can happen.
I've just got it up here. I'll start. We'll just go through the main card, and then if there's any decent prelims, we'll give predictions closer to the time.
Yeah.
The first one, I think it's a rematch between Magomed Ankalaev and Ion Kutaleba. How do you see that one going?
Fucking hell, that fight has been in the books for so long now, and I think Eon's
I've
tested positive.
I've lost count the amount of times it's gone through recently.
Yeah, exactly. It's been like cancelled that 3 or 4 times, and the way in which the first fight ended, that's crazy. I don't know if you saw the fight, but
yeah,
so weird and what ended. I mean, I think Magomed gets it done again, but whether I think he gets the second round TKO. I think he survives the first round at Eon, maybe gets a couple of. I think Magomed gets him sort of picks him apart early on and then just sets him up for the finish in the second round. What about you?
I'm gonna go. Well, I'd go for. Well, if it happens, the fight this time,
Yeah.
Go for a. I'm gonna say Kutaleba. Same round as you, second round. TKO, just the opposite fighter. So then after that, we've got Rafael dos Anjos versus Islam Makhachev.
Obviously, if you know Islam, he's the teammate of Khabib, and I think we last saw him fight when Khabib last fought at 242 against Poirier. So I don't know. Islam has got all the credentials and all the skill set to become a top fighter, but he just needs to be more active. And dos Anjos, does he, have the sort of ability to cut down to 155 again? Because it's been 3 years since we've last seen him. Well, 4 years since we've last seen him fight at lightweight. So does he have the ability to get himself down an extra 15 pounds? I don't know. But if that fight does happen, and hopefully no one pulls out, I think Islam takes it by decision.
I'd lean more towards dos Anjos on this one, just because I think he's just gonna want. I don't actually know. I think I'm not too excited for the fight, but because it's former champion and I don't mind Rafael dos Anjos, so I'll watch his fight. But I think it might be quite sluggish, so I'd go for a dos Anjos decision on that one, to be honest. Then we've got Alexander Volkov and Walt Harris.
Volkov, I think he gets a knockout against Walt Harris. Depends when. Quickly, I'm going to go for a second round knockout.
Well, I think after his last performance against obviously Overeem, that was his fight after the tragedy that obviously his whole family had experienced, and I think he's going to want to get a win, just so obviously he's got that win back under. So I'm going to go Walt Harris decision. I think the first 1.5 rounds are going to be quite competitive and like they're going to exchange quite a lot, but then I think after that, both guys' gas tank's going to slowly fade away. But I think Walter will be coming out with the decision, and then as we spoke about a fight before, Jared Cannonier and Robert Whittaker co-main event. I'll go first on this one. I think if, like we were saying it depends which Whittaker shows up. If the Whittaker that fought Darren Till shows up, which to be fair was a good Whittaker on his day, I think he could win. But I don't. I'm torn on this one. With every fight, it depends who turns up the most. But I'm gonna go for a Cannonier second round TKO just because I know Adesanya called him out, and even though I think Adesanya would get through quite easy, I'd still like to see the fight, but I'd go for a Cannonier second round TKO. How about you?
Obviously, we haven't seen Cannonier fight for over a year now because of injury problems, and if he comes back fully fit and unscathed and mentally prepared to get the win over Robert Whittaker and get the fight with Israel Adesanya, then he can literally, I think he'll win. But like I said, if we've seen the old determined Robert Whittaker, I think he gets it done by decision. But I'm so up in the air right now. It's a 50-50 coin flip really as to who you can go for. But my head's saying Cannonier, but my heart wants Whittaker. So I'm just going to say Whittaker by decision now. I mean, it could change in the next couple of weeks.
Well, then the last fight we're going to talk about from this card, Khabib Nurmagomedov versus Justin Gaethje. I As much as I love Khabib and I love Gaethje, so I really don't know. But I don't think Khabib will be able to eat as many shots and stay standing as Tony does.
No, 100%. I don't know if Khabib's got the chip because you saw Tony Ferguson. My God, did he take some punches? And whether Khabib's got the chin to sort of withstand that pressure, I don't know. But also, yeah, but I think mine is head saying Khabib, heart wants Gaethje because it's going to be one of those cliches. Oh, the whole fight. The start of the fight's always got to start on the feet, and you never know, that gives Gaethje a chance. But ultimately, we're going to see Khabib prevail. We always see these top class strikers come up against him, and then ultimately they end up failing and falling pretty hard, and they get absolutely battered by Khabib. So Gaethje has got to implement his wrestling defense a big time against Khabib, because if we're going to see that typical stand-up Gaethje looking for a knockout finish without using that defense in his arsenal, because don't get me wrong, he's got a good wrestling background, Gaethje. So if he uses that to keep the fight standing, then he might get the knockout. But Khabib's going to take you down eventually, and just I think he will get it. I want to say via decision, but I think he might get a late finish, Khabib. I say round 4, round 5 finish, maybe.
Well, this should be Khabib's toughest test. Well, it certainly is on paper, but how it plays out in the fight's a different story. I think if Gaethje catches him with some of the punches he caught Tony with, as much as I love Khabib, there's no hope for him, because I don't see him standing after 2 or 3 of those wild swings off Gaethje. But if Gaethje going to land him, that's the thing, and I don't think he will. As much as I love both guys, I'm going to go for a Khabib decision.
Yeah.
But now I'm going to just quick on Bellator. I think it's in Milan this weekend. Guest of the Sports Sesh podcast, Carl Ellen is fighting James Gallagher. How do you see that one playing out?
Obviously, you've seen James Gallagher, and you know how much of a cocky little git he is. He's trying to be that. He's got that McGregor wannabe persona about him, and he's just got to focus on his own game. And against a guy like Carl Ellen, he's just obviously we've spoken to him recently. If you haven't seen that, check it out because it's on our channel somewhere. He seems very determined and motivated to win that fight, and he's trained well for it. So I don't know. I've watched Cole Ellen a couple of times after the interview because I just wanted to see what he's going to be like going into the fight with James Gallagher. So what Gallagher brings to the table. Okay, we can talk about him all day long, but is this a 5-round main event or a 3-round?
I think it's 5-round main event.
I think I don't know. It's going to be a tough one because do I see it going to full distance? I don't know. We might see Cole potentially get the finish either late on or late on towards the end of the rounds, the sort of championship rounds, round 4, round 5, maybe even get the stoppage in the 3rd. But James Gallagher's a tough guy to beat, but he is very beatable. Don't get me wrong, and he's got to be very careful for Gallagher's. That obviously he can mix it up well in his ground game. Is great as well, and I think with Colin and he's just got to be careful for Gallagher's aggression going forward, and if he can sort of withstand that pressure for Gallagher early on, you never know. We can see Eleanor potentially get the win, and I hope so as well.
Well, I agree with what you say. I've got to back the guy that we've had on, Cal Eleanor, on, but as we know, both anyone's beatable. So if James brings his A game, he's more than capable of defeating Cal. But like when Cal said on the show, if he thinks he'll submit him, and to be honest, I agree with Cal, but it's just when. So
yeah,
I'm gonna go for a Cal Eleanor, say 3rd round submission.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
So that's everything I had planned. I know you had a couple of things you wanted to talk about as well, James.
Yeah, no, literally, I've got a couple of bits and bobs to talk about because obviously we've got the return of the Football League season across Europe as well, and in particular, obviously, I've gone through some of the top 5 leagues, and then as well, I've got a bit of some American sports action because we've got a couple of big games going into this week. So we'll start with the European football. Obviously, we've got the Bundesliga start, which is a bit of a weird one because we've got Hoffenheim leading the table so far, and I don't know if you watched this weekend game, but they absolutely humiliated Bayern. I mean, it was just crazy to see Hoffenheim have so much fun. But it's good in a way because the Bundesliga, they got some sort of fans back. They can have a fair few back, so it's good to have that atmosphere back. And tonight is going to be a big game. I think it's the German Super Cup final between Dortmund and Bayern Munich, who both obviously lost this weekend, with Bayern Munich losing to Hoffenheim and Dortmund having a shock defeat away to Augsburg. And they just were not clinical in that game at all, Dortmund. So they got to bring their A game. But unfortunately, I've seen that both Jadon Sancho and their number one keeper, Roman Berkey, are ruled out due to respiratory systems, but they both tested negative for COVID, so it's a bit of a weird one. I think on their day, I think Bayern will win it tonight, probably at normal time. And I think the loss to Hoffenheim was a bit of a shock. It was a bit of a changed side. They've certainly changed probably in preparation for tonight's game, but ultimately you know what to expect from Bayern. They're going to win the league. I mean, I don't know. On the opening night, they just absolutely thumped Schalke 8-0. You know what they're going to do. They're going to win the league again. And it's just a case of how they do it and how dominant they are. Hoffenheim was just a bit of a small blip in the road. So tonight should be a good. I think if that's on like TV on BT, I'll give that a watch because Bayern Dortmund's always entertaining and very fun. But I think they'll get it done today. And with La Liga, obviously, that's a bit of a weird one. A couple of teams have played already, and I think Getafe are top right now because they've beaten Osasuna and Real Betis. I think they drew one of their other games. Real Madrid, they drew to Sociedad in their first game and narrowly beat Betis. It's a bit of a weird one. They've just announced today that Eden Hazard's out for 4 weeks, and I don't know. Obviously, they lost Gareth Bale, and will Real Madrid, retain that title? I don't know, but it's going to be an interesting one to see how Barcelona return under Koeman. It's a new era, if you will, with Barcelona. They've got a new squad, new manager. They've got such an aging squad, but you just never know. They got that front line of who they played against Villarreal. They've got Messi, Griezmann, Coutinho, and Fati. Now that front forward line is capable of beating anyone in their day, and hopefully Koeman gets them playing again and gets the Barcelona faithful behind them, and hopefully, yeah. But, it'll be interesting to see. It'll be a lot closer to this La Liga title race this year because you've got Sevilla, who are definitely going to be ones to watch after. I don't know if you watched the Super Cup with Bayern Munich, but although they ultimately lost in extra time, my God, did Sevilla set up in the traditional shithouse way, if you will. They do the job well, and they are an interesting team to watch, Sevilla. And I like what Lopetegui's doing, and if they can keep Campos, what a player he is! My God, he's just a big winger. He's very frightening on that left-hand side, cutting across onto his favoured foot. So they're going to be ones to watch, I think, Sevilla. But the team I'm looking forward to is Atletico Madrid. Because what a debut Luis Suarez had this weekend. He scored twice, as well as getting assists for Marco Llorente. Their attacking front line is incredible. They got Luis Suarez, Diego Costa, João Felix. So they're going to be a team to watch this season, and they've got what to expect from them. They're just that sort of standard, again, shithouse defensively in big games. But now with the recent acquisition of Luis Suarez, could they, they've got their guy who can get you 20 plus goals a season, and he's obviously got off to the best of starts. So they could be pushing to challenge the likes of Real Madrid and Barcelona this season. So it's going to be an interesting game. Interesting title race this season with La Liga, and I'll be keeping a close eye on Atletico Madrid after the signing of Suarez, which sort of leads on to Liga, and obviously got Serie A to go, and it's a tough one. I think PSG, you know what to expect from them. They're ultimately going to win it, but I don't know if you saw, they lost their first 2 games against Lens and Marseille, and that game against Marseille was absolutely crazy. I don't know if you saw someone allegedly racially abused Neymar, and my God,
all the red cards.
Yeah, all those red cards is absolutely crazy.
Madness.
So they lost their reds at the start of the season, but now that they get starting to bring everyone back, they've won their last 3 games. So I think they're just about their 6th or 7th. They beat Reims at the weekend 2-0. So they'll be an interesting one. They will ultimately win the league, no doubt. And Rennes, I believe, are currently top. They're unbeaten in 5. So I was intrigued to see how they cope after selling Edouard Mendy to us. They host Rome this weekend, who PSG just beat, and they've got a very capable team of getting into the Champions League again. I think they got knocked out in the qualifiers this season, but they've got the likes of Nzonzi, Camavinga, Niang, Rafinha. They're just such a closely knit team who on paper they don't have the best of sides, but they can ultimately compete with the way they play. And they replaced Mendy with Alfred Gomes from Dijon for about £10 million, which is very cheap. He's a reasonably stable keeper who can ultimately get them far in the league this season. So he's going to ultimately be their number one keeper. And again, who are also one to watch are Lille. I mean, I think they're second, about 1 or 2 points behind Rennes in second. And they've just signed Jonathan David from some Belgian team. I think it was Genk, who's very much impressed the masses because he's one to replace Victor Osimhen, who's gone to Napoli. And be interesting to see how if Lille can sort of push their way back into the Europe's elite. They've certainly got the squad capable with Bamba as well and Magnon at the goal, and they've got a team capable of doing so. Whether they can keep it up all season, I don't know, but I'm going to be intrigued to watch the Serie A this season. Napoli currently top of the league, 2 from 2. They battered Genoa in the weekend, 6-0, I think. So there's this new era with Napoli underway. They've got Victor Osimhen from Lille, and it'll be interesting to see how they set up there, because if they keep Koulibaly, and because obviously you know what Napoli are like, there's some sort of issues behind the scenes with the board, and if they can put that to one side and focus on their football, then they could challenge Juve this season. And believe it or not, with their attacking line at Mertens, Lozano, Insigne, they can, and even Fabian in midfield and Zielinski, they'll be tough to compete with this season. And they're away to Juventus this weekend. Going to be a very good game. And the Pirlo era, has gotten off to a bit of a mixed start in a way, because they beat Sampdoria in the opening weekend, and then they drew to Roma last weekend, a 2-2 draw with Ronaldo's shot getting them out of trouble. And I don't know with Pirlo. I mean, he's tended to have mixed up the formation in both games. So if he sticks to that system, I just don't know. That Juventus aren't going to be heavy favourites this season. They'll probably win it, but they're going to be very tough to beat this season, and they're going to be hot on their tails from the likes of Napoli, Inter, and AC Milan. I don't think they're going to walk away with it this year. I think they're going to have to heavily rely on Ronaldo to get him out of trouble. And one team I did mention, AC Milan, they're certainly going to be ones to watch. I mean, the board have backed him this summer, signing Kier from Sevilla. They've also signed Tonali, who's tipped to go to Inter Milan. And if you know Sandro Tonali, he's dubbed as this next big thing in Italian football. They've signed Brahim Diaz from Real Madrid, who scored in his debut last weekend. And obviously, with the likes of Ibrahimovic, Ante Rebic, and Theo Hernandez, they're going to be ones to watch this season. And obviously, they've been in the shadow over the last couple of years, AC Milan, but I think this is their year where they've got to be pushing on. But just obviously briefly, we've got the NBA and the NFL, which is a bit of a weird one. I've started getting into the NBA and the NFL recently. I mean, you look at all the American sports, you've got to watch it at some point, regardless of not whether you're a fan. But obviously that starts tomorrow night, the NBA Finals against the Lakers and Miami Heat, which is going to be an interesting one, because over the years, Lakers have obviously had their ups and downs, but this is the perfect opportunity for them to grab the headlines and establish themselves as one of the NBA's dominant force again. With Lakers, they're heavily going to be relying on the likes of Anthony Davis, Danny Green, and LeBron James to sort of get them out of danger and sort of get them the wins early on. And if Lakers can control the pace from the get-go, then I think they can get it done, because like I said, it's out of 7. And just when you watch the Lakers, the way they just transition to attack has just been a joy to watch all season. And over the spells against Miami Heat in previous games, Lakers have always had the edge. With Miami Heat, they've got to rely on Bam Adebayo, and it'll be interesting to see how he deals with against a guy like Anthony Davis. That's going to be a good matchup on paper. They've had over the past couple of games to get to the finals. They've had a tougher road than Lakers, but they've made it look a lot easier and not convincing. They've certainly got a very versatile defense, and as well as offensively, they're strong going forward. So it'll be an interesting clash. But I think I am a Lakers fan, so it might be the Lakers bias within me, but I think they'll get it in 6, leaving the 7th game just all to a nothing game really.
Yeah.
Just very quickly, obviously, I'll go for this one very quickly. With the NFL teams to watch this season, obviously you've got the Buffalo Bills, who've got the perfect 3-0 record this season, and they've had a very disappointing one campaign last year, so they'll be looking to improve this season, and they'll have potentially a big season this campaign. Obviously, I think they've just recently hired Sean McDermott as their coach, and they've got some great young players. But it's good in a way because they've got a lot of young players as well as a mix of experienced players as well. So they're not obviously shy of either experience and a bit of youth. It's good. So it'll be interesting to see how they get off. Obviously, they got off to a perfect 3-0 start. Can they keep this up? Because they brought in some very talented players from the off-season. Hopefully, they can keep up the momentum. But in terms of the NFL season so far, Bills have been, pretty much ones to watch. Mm-hmm. And in the North, you've got the Ravens, who've coming off of their from last season. Obviously, they've been coming off of their best sort of campaign since their 2012 Super Bowl winning campaign. And in the regular season last year, they've had their moments, but unfortunately, the divisional playoff loss to Tennessee last season was sort of, they'll be looking to amend that defeat, and they'll be determined to get that one step further this season and sort of campaign and have that better season this year, and hopefully test a lot of teams so far. Again, they like Baltimore Ravens, they brought in a mixture of youth and experience to sort of get them across the line and potentially make them challenge. They may have lost the likes of Pierce, Thomas, and Yanda during the summer season, but I think they've still got a strong offensive line, and defensively they've got a sound back line. So they could be ones to watch this season in the AFC North Division. And they currently sit second behind the Pittsburgh Steelers, I believe. They're 2-1 so far, so they'll be looking to improve on that. Just quickly, obviously, you've got Tampa Bay Buccaneers one to watch, and briefly, I'm just going to go into my team. Obviously, I have a bit of a soft spot for the Colts, and it's a bit of a weird one. I mean, it's so weird supporting the Indianapolis Colts because they've just struggled in so many times recently, and hopefully this season, this is a big year for them. It's a no secret from my sort of perspective anyway. They got arguably one of the better offensive lines in the NFL, and I think they were the only team to have the same group in all 16 games last season. So they know the drill, they know what these teams are going to expect. So the issue with them is the sort of depth, and they've lost a couple of players in the likes of Joe Haig and Josh Andrews. They're two big key backup stars this season, and hopefully, obviously, they've recruited Phillip Rivers, and hopefully he can come up clutch and look upon him and sort of give him a lot of backup options going forward. And if they can sort of keep that momentum going, and one thing that they've suffered from recently over the past couple of years is injuries to their key players. If they can keep their key players fully fit, and they're off to a decent start so far, I think the Colts can sort of, they're going to be one to watch this season potentially. They're not going to win anything, but they could certainly entertain the masses this season, and hopefully they can, because I'll be watching them. I'm going to be a firm favourite of Colts this season. But yeah, that's all from me, mate. Sorry I've rambled on a bit, but it's been a good show. We got just over an hour, well, longer than an hour, like an hour and 20 or something. Yeah, so it's been a good show.
Yeah, so cheers for watching, everyone. Sorry for the lack of episodes. We've had busy times for us both, but we're gonna aim for one episode a week. But if that happens, remains to be seen. So cheers for watching, everyone, and we'll catch you next time.
Take care, guys.